welcome to my kitchen. I'm Tiara. Have you ever wanted to make cupcakes really fast and just, you know, didn't have a lot of time, but you needed to take something to, a party or like a meeting, and or, well, maybe you were walking in the baking aisle in the store and there was a cake mix on sale. So what we're going to do today is we are going to take chocolate cake mix, and we're going to elevate that and make it taste better so that you can enjoy a quick and easy cupcake dish without all of the hard work of making cupcakes by scratch. So whether you're a beginner baker or just somebody in a hurry, it's really easy to take a cake mix and kind of improve upon it, if you will, make it taste more like it's homemade. So I usually do all of my cakes and cupcakes from scratch, but I was not really feeling it these past couple of days, but I knew I wanted to make a s'mores cupcake. And I happened to see this chocolate cake mix on sale. So I decided that I'm going to use this chocolate cake mix and make cupcakes with it. So the chocolate cake mix asks for the cake mix, 1 1/4 cups of water, 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, and 3 eggs. What we're going to do is we're going to take those things slightly alter them so that we get a better taste from the cake than just the kind of generic box cake taste. So first of all, I'm going to mix together all of the wet ingredients. So it calls for 3 eggs. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take 3 eggs plus 1 extra egg yolk, because today I'm making s'mores cupcake. Today I'm making s'mores cupcakes, which means I need marshmallow topping, which is made out of egg whites. So since I have an extra egg yolk, I'm going to add that. You can add 1 or 2 egg yolks, or you can add an extra whole egg for 4 eggs. That's actually going to add to the flavor of your cake mix and make it richer. So I'm just going to beat these eggs together real quick. I'm going to go ahead and pour these into the bigger bowl. I don't need to measure out any dry ingredients today. Next, the 1 1/4 cups of water. What I've actually done is I have a cup of water here that I'm going to add, but instead of that extra quarter, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of half and half. Now, milk is a good substitute, so you could replace the whole or part of the 1 1/4 cups of water with milk. I've gone for a 1/4 cup of half and half because obviously half and half is more rich than just regular milk, but we don't drink milk, and I just use half and half for coffee, so that's why I'm using a 1/4 cup of half and half. But you could replace maybe half the water with milk or all of it, and that will give the cake more rich, moist flavor. And you want a 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Something here you can do as well is replace the oil with melted butter. But because I'm making cupcakes and cupcakes tend to dry out more, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the oil. But if you were making a sheet cake or, a full size round cake, you might want to try melting butter and putting it in, because that will also alter the taste of the cake mix. Just that cupcakes are much smaller, they bake faster, and they have a tendency to dry out more. So we'll keep the oil in because the oil keeps them nice and moist and soft. And not on the ingredient list, I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And once again, all of these things are done to kind of take the basic cake mix, which is, flour, sugar, cocoa, and leavener, basically. It is the basics of cake, like when you're making a cake by scratch, but like in a more chemically kind of way so that it stays preserved inside of this box. So I've mixed all my wet ingredients together, and I need to grab scissors and cut this. Okay. So just like when I'm doing my own baking, I'm going to take the cake mix and I'm going to sift it into the wet ingredients instead of just dumping it in. And this helps alleviate clumps and lumps inside of the cake mix. There's the beep telling me that the oven is preheated to 350 degrees. It looks like this cake mix also has little tiny pieces of chocolate in there, so I'm going to mix those in, but I'm going to mix them in after I mix in the rest of the stuff so that I can distribute it evenly. And also what I've got here is a teaspoon of gingerbread spice mix. So it's basically ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. And that's just going to add a nice little taste to it. It'll go well with the chocolate and add a nice layer, extra layer of flavor. You can use a stand mixer or a handheld mixer, or you can whisk like I am right now without hopefully spilling everything everywhere. What I really need is a bigger bowl, but I'm using my stand mixer to make the s'mores topping for the cake, so I don't want to use that bowl right now. As with all things, you don't want to overmix. You just want to mix it until it's come together. Make sure you swipe down the sides and make sure there's no clumps of dry in there. All right, this one came with little chocolate pieces, so I'm going to go ahead and dump those in now. So that was quick and easy, and it was, you know, it's a really fast way to put together a cake without having to measure out flour, sugar, salt, etc., etc. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my lined cupcake tin and we will start filling those. All right, I have a little ice cream / batter scoop here. So I'm just going to start taking a knife to kind of help make things even and less messy, hopefully. I'm just going to start filling these. I'm going to do, these are small scoops, so I'm going to do 2, and that about halfway fills up the muffin, or the cupcake tin, or the cupcake liner. So after the initial 2 scoops, I went ahead and went back through and added another about half of a scoop to every one of them to kind of fill them up. So because I'm making s'mores cupcakes, what I've got here is some crushed up graham crackers. And I'm just going to take a little bit and sprinkle the graham crackers onto the top of each cupcake. Try not to get too much like on the tin because you don't want stuff around the edge to burn while the cupcakes are baking. I think I crushed up maybe 4 large rectangles of graham crackers here. And you can put graham crackers in the food processor or a blender type thing to crush them up. Or you can do what I did, which is put them in a bag and then smash them with a rolling pin. It's a great way to get some frustration out. So this is just going to give a nice little crunchy top to them as they bake. I'm just going to quickly pat that down because the cupcakes are going to rise and we don't want the crumbs to fall off everywhere. We want them to kind of stick to the cupcake. So box cake mix will make 24 cupcakes about, but I only have one uh, cupcake tin. So we're going to go ahead and start with these 12. And the box says they will cook in about 14 to 19 minutes at 350 degrees. So I will go ahead and put those in, and we will check them at the earlier time, and then when they come out clean, a toothpick comes clean out of the center, we'll know that they are done. All right, so let's work on our Swiss meringue buttercream. First thing we're going to do is separate the eggs. I have this cute little guy who's going to help me. So you'll remember I put one extra egg yolk into the cake mix. So I've already got one in there, so I just need to get these other two. All right, so obviously you cannot just serve raw eggs to people. So we've got our 3 egg whites, we've got a cup of sugar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk them together, and I've got a pan on the stove that is simmering over medium heat with about 2 inches of water over it. So I'm going to put this pan over the simmering water, and I'm going to slowly cook the eggs, but not make them like fully cooked / scrambled. And so that way they'll be safe to eat, and we can make our meringue without having to put it in the oven or anything like that. So what you're going to want to do is mix the egg whites and the eggs together. And then when we put this over the heat, we're going to whisk it constantly until the sugar has melted. It'll take probably about 5 minutes. Make sure the bottom of the pan doesn't touch the water. You just want it to sit over the top. All right. So the consistency when it's done, like when you first start, it's very grainy because the sugar isn't really melted. It's almost kind of like a melted milkshake. So it's got that like glossy white color, and it's very thick. And it's got like a little like shine to it. So we're gonna go ahead and add a pinch of salt. And a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then this is where it's better to have a stand mixer than a handheld mixer, because you're going to want to beat the eggs until this cools, and that could be about 10 minutes. Okay, cupcakes are out of the oven. I'm going to let them sit in the pan for a couple of minutes, and then maybe like 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll put them out onto a wire rack to cool. And they need to be cooled completely before we decorate them, otherwise there will be melting, and we don't want melting. Okay, so our cupcakes are cooled, our meringue is done. So you can see it's got nice stiff peaks on it. And it's basically, at this point, since we're doing like a s'mores marshmallow-y type topping, it's done. If you wanted to turn this into more of like a frosting or a buttercream, you could add maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons of butter at room temperature and blend it in. Just maybe add it like one tablespoon at a time to make sure that you get the right consistency. But I'm not going to add any butter to this because I want it to remain that kind of marshmallowy texture and taste since we are making s'mores cupcakes. So let me put this down and I'm going to grab a cup. I've got my piping bag. I think this is called a star tip. And then I will go ahead and start piping. Just going to cut the bottom of the piping bag and make a hole for the tip. Put the tip in there. And then I'm using this cup to hold the piping bag as I fill it so that I don't have to worry about like grabbing the bowl and the spatula and the piping bag all at once. This makes it a lot easier. This is very light and fluffy, and of course very sticky because it's basically like a homemade marshmallow. So I'm not going to overfill it. I'll put like half in there for now, and we can put more in later. Start piping these out. You don't have the star-shaped piping tip, it's fine. This just kind of gives it a little extra kind of decorative texture. You may notice I have a baking sheet underneath my cupcakes, and that's because even though we pressed the crumbs down into the top before baking, some of them are still loose. So I'm using the baking tray underneath to catch rogue crumbs. That way it'll be easier to clean up when I'm done. We are going to toast the marshmallows with our handy dandy torch. Got it about half power. This is pretty much the best way to do this. You could put it under the broiler for maybe up to a minute, but I would really be worried about doing that. So this is just an easy way to do it. A torch like this is not that expensive. I think this was under $10. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to toast the tops so you get kind of that campfire feel. And we'll just brush over them and try not to burn them too much, but we want them to be nice and toasty. You don't have to put it right on, you don't have to put the flame right onto the cupcake. You just kind of wave it over and it'll toast it. Kind of like when you're, toasting marshmallows at the campfire. You don't have to put it directly in the fire, just over it. You see those toast nice and fast. Oh, and I'm actually out of butane, I think. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some graham crackers and I'm going to break them up into little pieces. So each brick does 4 pieces. And then I'm just going to stick them in as like a little decorative piece. Okay. We have some delicious s'mores cupcakes with a chocolate cake made with a zhuzhed up box chocolate cake mix, a meringue topping that we've toasted for some, and others that did not get to be toasted because my torch ran out of gas. Whoops! And then topped with a little graham cracker garnish. Doesn't that look tasty? Yes. The answer is yes, it does look tasty. All right, well, thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make these quick and easy s'mores cupcakes. My tips about how to enhance a box cake mix, will work for chocolate cake or white cake or yellow cake. So you just add a little bit of extra, you add some extra egg, you replace some of the water with milk. If you're doing a cake instead of cupcakes, you can use butter instead of oil, and add a little bit of vanilla extract and maybe some flavoring like some cinnamon or some pumpkin spice or gingerbread spice, something like that, to just add a little bit more flavor to it. And that cuts out a lot of time when you don't have a lot of time to make a cake or cupcakes. And it's also a great way to kind of go past that initial beginner step of baking. So you're kind of experimenting with stuff that you haven't really done before. Maybe you've made box cake, but you haven't added anything else to it. And that's kind of your, stepping off point. And pretty soon you'll be making your own cakes with by scratch, all by yourself. And maybe you'll even make something like these. If you do make s'mores cupcakes, I would love to see them. Send me a picture and I'll share on my Facebook and Instagram accounts. And it'll just really make me happy to know that people are enjoying these videos and trying the recipes out. So that's it for this time. So until next time, thank you and goodbye.